I was listening to a podcast, one of my favorite podcasts, Freakonomics, lots of fun. But at one point, I heard a young man on the podcast say, I think capitalism is the best form of economic system, and I'll defend it to anybody who wants to talk with me about it. And I'm sure that makes all kinds of sense. But here is the issue. Capitalism is not a type of economic structure that you can choose as opposed to libertarian or socialism or communism, things of that sort. Capitalism is merely a description of what people with power and money and belongings and cash in kind will do with their capital to expand their wealth. This is not a one choice among many. This is what people do. There's nothing good or bad about it. It's amoral. But it's the same thing under Soyuz Sovietskих Socialistических Республик, the Union of Federated Soviet Socialist Republics. The people who had power and wealth used their power and wealth to gain privileges. They're the ones that had the beautiful, they call them dachas out in the country homes, beautiful places, and the nice cars. And they could go into special stores and buy the really good stuff. They could travel internationally. This you called it a socialist government, but it wasn't by any means. It was capitalism, very purely. People with wealth had the options. It's the same the whole world over. It's kind of a crying shame. It's the rich who get the pleasure and the poor that get the blame. This is not an option. This is what people do. This is how they live. Communism is not a thing. It is not done. In China right now, the people with privileges and money, it's the same thing. They have power, they have money, they're going to use that to expand. Their power and money, it's the same wherever you go. Regardless of what the country calls themselves, it's all capitalism. A capitalist like Rockefeller, he started very poor, and then he built this huge Standard Oil. Oh, it's a wonderful, wonderful thing. But and he founded University of Chicago, and the Rockefeller Chapel is still there. Beautiful, beautiful structure. He was using his capital to make more and more. Elon Musk and Donald Trump were born into riches, and they use their money to make more money. They also lie all day long to make more money and use the courts to crush their enemies. Well, that's what you can do. If you have enough money and you have enough power, then you can crush other people, which is must be a wonderful, depraved life to live. But that means that whatever Elon Musk or Trump attempt to do, when they fail, they succeed. What I mean by that is, if you have enough money, you can make any financial decision you want, no matter how stupid it is. And when you're done, you will have the best attorneys in the world to make sure that when you come out of bankruptcy, you'll be smiling. And I remember, I forget the name of the movie, delightful movie. Hugh Grant played the lead role, as I remember. But at the end, he was supposed to be a very rich guy. Donald Trump was in that screwy movie. But anyway, at the end, he had just, this business situation was just totally fell apart due to a number of reasons in the movie. It's a good movie. Anyway, at the end, he says to his love interest, as they're kissing each other, he says, well, I want you to know that now I'm poor. And she says, "Oh, you are?" And she says, "Yeah, well, that means that I have to share a helicopter with another family." And that's what being poor means for someone who lives in great, great privilege. But capitalism itself is not one economic system you choose among many. It is simply a description of what people do as they begin to accumulate power and money, and even what people do with their very limited capital. They will use that limited capital to build for themselves. There's Carnegie used his money. What was he famous for saying? If you die with more than a dime, you're a failure. We have a beautiful Carnegie Library not far away, and another one. Goodness, there are some Carnegie libraries in our town. When you have the money, then you can build a factory. Come up with a new product that's going to benefit a lot of people. That was very common in the 50s. Air conditioning and refrigeration, and all kinds of cool things that benefited all kinds of people. Electric washing machines, electric dryers, electric stove. There's all kinds of cool things you can have. Or instead of that, if you have capital, you can take your money and buy back the stock in your own company, pump up the value of the stock, manipulate the market, and make a bunch of money that way. But to him who has shall more be given. And he who does not have, even what little he does have, will be taken away. You can say that's a shame. I suppose it is a shame. But it's the way economy works. Wealth flows upward. You can inject it at the bottom in all sorts of different ways, but it flows upward. Now, here's the trick. So you have capitalism, which is just a description of what people do. Okay? What happens now? People sometimes, capitalism doesn't work. Capitalism is great. Oh man, we just follow the magic hand of capitalism. Get too excited there. No, we can't let capitalism. Okay, this is not an issue of capitalism. This is an issue of government. Government. You don't get to choose. Government or no government, not an option. That's not your option. You only get to choose good government or bad government. For example, you have oligarchs in Russia, and they have a government that they have to, kowtow to, and that's largely whatever Putin says and whatever Putin wants. And each one of those oligarchs is just a piggy bank for Putin. He can destroy those oligarchs at a moment's notice, accuse them of anything, they get thrown in a cage, go through a kangaroo trial, thrown into prison, and he gets all their assets. They are just a piggy bank for Putin to take their money whenever he wants to. That's called capitalism with bad government. Okay? Now, in the United States, we have regulations written down. We have taxes. Taxes? People might say there's only two things sure, death and taxes. Well, I'd say there's only one thing sure, taxes. Taxes will exist wherever government exists, and government exists wherever you have more than 25 people who have to work together. So if you have 25 people in a very, very small commune that have to work together, you will have government and you will have taxes or dues or whatever you want to call them. But money will be necessary to run things cooperatively with one another. And government will have to exist. Some of the governments in communes are very strict. And people get thrown out, of the commune for making trouble. And that's government's job within a government. So government is laid on top of capitalism to to put it under load. Here's what I mean by that. Oh goodness, this is complicated, but I hope not too much. And it's so important to recognize, because people all the time are saying, I like capitalism, I like libertarianism. It's nonsense. I worked in a book bindery. I worked on a letterpress machine, a Mealy 41. Okay? You don't have to know, but it has a great huge platen that goes wham, 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 and a great bed underneath where the chase goes, and and that goes whoo, 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 back and forth. And anyway, it was at the print shop. Great huge machine, and it had a big electric motor that ran it, a 3-phase electric motor. That electric motor was designed to work under load. It was designed to move this great big bed and huge metal underpinnings that are under it. Go wham, wham, wham. It'll take your arm off and just be happy as a lark and ask for one more. Ran all the pumps, ran all the bushings, ran all the the rollers, and all kinds of stuff going on at the same time in this great huge letterpress machine. Here's my point. If you took that electric motor and removed its load, in other words, removed the machine from it and just let that motor go, it would burn out in less than an hour and a half. But because it functions the way it's supposed to, under load, moving this huge machine, the bed of this huge machine back and forth, it has lasted 35 years. It has to have some maintenance, but it has lasted 35 years. And that's the difference between being under load and just spinning out of control. All things, people, ideas, operating procedures, all things have a purpose and are designed to work under load, and economies are the same. The government puts a load on capitalism. At minimum, all governments, everywhere, all the time, whenever it is, good governments, bad governments, millennial kingdom, it doesn't matter what government you have, taxes will always be there. And that is a form of load that you put on capitalism, on people who work. Everybody who works. We're all little capitalists. We're all trying to build something better for ourselves. Now, in almost all countries, there's not just taxes. There's also regulations. Oh, you want to build a building? Well, these are the regulations for the electrical systems. These are the regulations for the plumbing system. This is how far apart the studs have to be for interior walls. This is how far apart the studs have to be for external walls. There's lots and lots of regulations. There are regulations, obviously, in the United States for working conditions. There are, if McDonald's, they're not doing it, but if they did, if they start selling rotted hamburgers, we expect government to come in and say, hey, you're killing people, lots of dead people rolling around here. You need to stop doing that. And as a matter of fact, we're going to make you pay damages. Capitalism is just simply people using whatever they have to expand their benefit. Using what they have to expand their benefit. Government places load, places restrictions, places regulations on capitalism so that it functions under load to benefit. Now, to benefit who? If it's a kleptocracy, you know who it's going to benefit. Now, for example, it'll benefit Putin and his oligarchs until he kills the oligarch and takes the oligarch's money. If it's Trump, obviously it's going to benefit Trump. If it's Elon Musk, it's going to benefit Elon Musk. And his workers will have non-disparagement agreements, so they have to not have any free speech. to talk about their time there. All right. Here's what you'll hear sometimes, and I think it is silly in the extreme. You will hear a person say, "Ha! We don't need that. We want to be libertarians." At least you can understand libertarianism as an economic system, but it's really a system that says to do away with government. In other words, let the magic hand of capitalism do what needs to be done. That's how an economy should run, the magic hand of capitalism. And this libertarian, or what I might call a libertine, since there is no morality concerned with this, it's just somebody saying how they think things should work. We don't need government. Get government out of here. Oh my good, anarchy is horrible. But a libertarian would say, we'll just follow the magic hand of capitalism. And they'll say that until someone uses their capital to open up a brothel and takes the libertarians' daughters and takes them away to the brothel to enter the sex trade. Then at that point, the libertarian is saying, whoa, where's the FBI? This is kidnapping. No, it has to stop. The libertarian might respond, oh, no. I'd just pay for a police force. I'd have my own. Everybody would pay for their own security forces. I will guarantee you the guy with the brothel has a bigger security force than you do. So his daughters stay in the sex trade until they age out, and then they're thrown out to fend for themselves. Very few libertarians would say, right, that's the magic hand of capitalism. That's the way life should work. No. They'll say, oh, well, I guess we need some government to do that. Here's again, you don't get to choose between government and no government. Does he want rotted food in the cans of canned goods that he buys? No, he wants the FDA to be there to make sure that people toe the line in the tuna fish they put in a can, or now it's in bags, or fill in the blank, or that the Campbell's soup is wholesome rather than will kill you when you open it up. You don't get to choose. And second, you don't want to choose. No government as opposed to government. There is no such thing. You can choose to say, I'm a libertarian. I'm a sovereign citizen. Well, go ahead, be a sovereign citizen. The police will still arrest you. The FBI will still come and say, I see you haven't paid your taxes for 6 years. We got a special little camp for you. You'll enjoy it. And they'll put you in a federal prison camp if you're very fortunate. And you'll spend your time there for tax fraud. In my opinion, a libertarian, a strong libertarian, someone who says, "No, just let everybody do it on their own," is a silly person in the extreme, and they're not thinking through what their position would actually mean to them. When somebody comes up and shoots the man's wife so he can take all his money, the person's going to say, I want government to come in and make things right. Well, of course he does. That's only right. That's only the way it should be. But it's not the libertarian way to make things work. Capitalism is at the bottom. It's not a choice between other systems. It is just a description of how things work. Government lays on top of that to force capitalism to serve above itself, to serve the common good. If it's bad government, it's not going to do a good job. And it's just going to, take that money and give it all to the people who are favorable to the beloved leaders, who will do what the beloved leader says. If it's good government, it will work in the other direction. It will use the money to try to do good and to make people's lives better and to expand benefit across the spectrum of the entire population. But either way, government lays on top of capitalism, putting it under the yoke, under regulation, under load, to serve hopefully the wider good. But if it's bad government, then it won't work that way. But it's always government laid on top to put capitalism under load.